I think it has to be recording.
Okay. All right.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to get the meeting started. This is a regular meeting of the Council of the Township of Montclair and is being broadcast live on Channel 34 and is streaming live on Montclair TV 34 YouTube channel. It is available on demand and can and will be rebroadcast. Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mayor Jackson.
Present.
Deputy Mayor McMahon. Here. Councilor Baskerville.
Present.
Councilor Hurlock.
Present.
Councilor Russo.
Present.
Councilor Schlager.
Here.
Councilor Spiller.
Present.
Thank you. We're going to go a bit out of order this evening, and we're going to begin with a budget presentation by Mr. Beneke and our CFO, Ms. Rao.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, Councilwoman and Councilmen. We are here today to present to you the Township's 2020 municipal budget. Like the mayor announced last month, this budget is going to have a 0 municipal tax rate increase. That means the tax rate is going to remain at 0.8783, just like it did in 2018 and 19. So here I am with our financial advisor, Mr. Bob Beneke, to go over the details of the budget. There is one. And our comptroller, Mr. Macaluso, is also here. Once we discuss, if you have any questions anytime, please feel free to ask any questions. So with that, Bob and I are going to present the budget highlights.
Want me to start? Want to start? Okay. Mr. Mayor, good evening.
Good evening.
Councilors.
Good evening.
Hello.
So this year, we're doing things a little bit differently. We're going to go into a little bit more detail. We also have some department heads here tonight to speak to you as well, as they have in the past, with respect to their budget operations as well. I believe you have a couple of documents in front of you. Maybe you just want to go over those documents with me. I think you have our PowerPoint from tonight.
Yes, we do.
I believe you have a summary of the budget, which was sent on Friday.
Yes.
It's 2 sheets of the budget highlights. And we also, not that, okay. Okay. And so the budget summary and then the financial foundation, which includes a detail as well. So we're going to go through it, we're going to take our time, and then we have our departments that Mr. Stafford will be introducing to you individually. The published theme for this year as well as last year is that there's no tax rate increase. We start with page 2 of the handout, which is dated today, and the handout is the financial foundation of the Township of Montclair. Throughout the document, we go through some of the principles that have guided us over the past several years, and Chris is here, comptroller, CPA, CMFO, as well as Maja, who is CPA, RMA, CMFO, myself, and we have a team that we've presented and have gone over this budget with. That includes the Finance Committee, of course, the Township Manager, Mayor Jackson, Mr. Hurlock, Mr. McMahon, as well as Mr. Scantlebury. And each time we meet, I'm probably at 75% of the meetings, and the others are at 90 to 100% of the meetings. We also have various departmental issues that are brought up, mostly from a scope of general issues that need to be financed over time. And you'll see that word in a couple of places in the handout and in our presentation tonight, over time. Because these types of issues are not dealt with in an immediate type of snap your fingers and get them done. We need to plan for the future continually, otherwise we run into trouble. So last year we spoke about the increased pension liability, and this we go into on page 2 of the PowerPoint. Last year, 2019 that is, we had an $800,000 pension liability that was left over from various retroactive pays, especially in the area of police and fire pensions. Police and fire pensions were increased due to a slowness, if you will, in coming out of the Great Recession and also in coming out of the new interest arbitration rules and laws. And we settled a contract about 2 or 3 years ago that had a lag of these pension costs. So we start off with that, but we also end 10 slides or so back with a conclusion of what we've done to correct that. Last year, that pension liability was funded through the increase of surplus funds. Surplus funds are created and generated, again, over time through reduced spending, improved revenues, things like pilot payments coming in, things like increased delinquent taxes and tax collections. They add to our basket of surplus. Surplus begets surplus, and as we utilize surplus, we can cover things like a pension invoice increase of $800,000. So this year, we're faced with an information technology requirement that requires a lot of tightening on procedures and protocols for information technology. It's well over $100,000 increase. It's in your notes, some of the detailed notes that Ms. Rao put together, and that is a problem that we're dealing with, but we have surplus to cover it. So many individuals may say, well, you're doing a 0% tax increase or no tax rate increase, but you're band-aiding the budget together. We're not at all. What we're doing is we're using surplus revenues that have been generated from these valid state sources in cash to cover cash outlays for 2020.
Back in 2017, the council adopted a resolution stating that we can utilize the surplus not more than the amount that we generated in the previous year. So we are, by that statute, by that rule, we are following that rule, and any additional revenue that we generated is paying for the additional unexpected costs.
That's a great point. And that gets to our constant theme that these issues aren't funded overnight. Marcia just went back to 3 years ago when the governing body adopted that policy, and now today we're still living up to that policy and using that flexibility to finance the IT improvements that we have to be making. So we also have a continued reduction in outstanding debt. I know a lot of folks and folks at home may think that this is sort of a Wizard of Oz type of thing, but it's really not. It's really straightforward. We started in 2012 with $223 million of debt. That was our high water mark. And I was here back in that time extolling the virtues of debt reduction and how we would go about getting a rating increase by our rating agencies. And today, not only we're a AAA rated municipality, our debt now is roughly 30%, slightly more than 30% less, a reduction of almost $60 million. There will be a reduction of $60 million by the end of this year, by July 1st. And it'll be somewhere in the neighborhood then of $162 million, or possibly less. The end of 2019, we had $164.7 million of debt. 30% reduction. I defy anyone with a town over 20,000 people to find any municipality that's reduced their debt by 30%, anywhere. And anybody who could tell me that, I'd give the hats off to them, and at the same time generate a AAA rating.
The reduction in the debt also resulted in a significant reduction in the interest cost for the township.
Our average interest cost this year, 2020, is 2.7%. If you take your total interest payments, you take your total outstanding debt, we're paying 2.7% on the nose as our total interest cost. Our net interest cost is actually less, because in addition to that interest that we pay, we receive premiums by issuing notes and bonds. Those premiums are reductions in coupon amounts in future years. So our net interest cost is probably in the neighborhood of 2.3 or 2.4%. Even at that low rate, we are saving at least $1.7 million in interest costs each and every year. And that is at the AAA rated level. If we still had the $225 million, give or take, of debt, we would be somewhere in the neighborhood of $2 or $2.2 million in savings, because the increase in the bond rating and the credit rating enhances our credit so much that we have an improved interest cost profile, where we would be paying 3% instead of 2% on average. And keep in mind, that's blended for 20-year bonds and 1-year notes. It's all blended together, and that's quite significant. So keep in mind that we're paying 2.7% total interest costs on all of our debt. If you said those numbers even back in 2010 or 11, people would have said, there's no way you're going to be paying that long-term over the course of the years. But that's the markets, and we've taken advantage of the markets. The other thing that we've juxtaposed that with, of course, is the improvement over the last several years, especially, of infrastructure, roads, stormwater drainage, curbs and sidewalks and the like. I believe the Finance Committee and the Mayor have gone through the details pretty carefully, and about 85% of our roads have been improved over the last several years. And that's remarkable, while at the same time reducing debt. Anything else on that score?
In reference to utilities also, we are doing a lot of infrastructure improvements and parking decks. You see how they're improved, and the water utility, sewer utility has gone through a lot of improvements. And the biggest item is 80% of the roads, just like you said, 80% of the roads are all done, and the parks and playgrounds, everything these are all, because of the low interest rates, because the debt is so low, reduced debt, and AAA bond rating contributed significantly in getting this much lower interest rate, so we can afford all these things. Yeah.
So that's one of the other themes, is that we have these foundational points that generate cost savings to the taxpayers. So not only is it a zero tax rate increase this year, but it also was last year. And more importantly, we're also doing more as we go through time. And over time, we're able to do more because our finances are in good order. And there's 3 reasons for that. The first reason is the debt reduction. We'll get to the other 2 as we go through the evening. Right. The pilot revenues is another one, and also surplus management. And we'll go through some of those details in a couple minutes. Page 3 of the handout goes through our financial rating. We were kind of surprised initially at the AAA rating. Today, we almost take it for granted. We can never take it for granted because, as we often say in our financial team meetings, not just at the financial committee meetings, it's always easier to go from a AAA down than it is to go from a AA plus to a AAA. You can always fall back, but it's very hard to come back up and to rebound. To maintain a AAA rating, we have to do so many things. And the first thing is that you need strong management. And that's why I mentioned Chris's credentials. That's why I mentioned, of course, Padmaja's credentials, which are both excellent. In addition, we have an attorney for a town manager, and we have, of course, everyone up on the dais that's really been involved, from Councilor Baskerville on the Economic Development Committee, and of course, Mr. Spiller, same, and Mr. Herlock, Mr. McMahon, we spoke about before. Deputy Mayor Russo is always in everyone's ear about what's going on in town, how things are progressing, and of course, Councilor Schlager is the same. We always want to make sure that things are on the right track and we're addressing the needs of the community. At the same time, these foundational points we try to use to finance and buttress the services that are provided. again, with the capital as one focus, and we'll get into the operating priorities in a second. After we get into the financial policies and financial management issues, the rating agencies look at budget flexibility. And budget flexibility makes a concerted effort to look at reserves and things around the edges. I know Brian, Mr. Scantlebury from time to time has gone through abandoned property lists, those types of things to improve the housing stock in the neighborhoods from a neighborhood preservation perspective. It's extremely important. In addition, we have to have, no, that's good. In addition, one last thought on that. Around the edges, we also have things like building permit fees, license fees, alcohol beverage license fees, and the like, that we have to continue to generate so that we don't lose even $50,000 a year to backpedal, so.
So with regard to budget flexibility, I just wanted to add one more point. Because our reserves in all areas are so strong, we managed to get the reserves to a very decent level. We have the budget flexibility to take care of any unanticipated issues. For example, the snow reserve is very strong. Our second vacation reserve is strong. There are other kinds of reserves are in a very good, decent shape. So that helps a lot for daily operating management.
One of those other reserves is, of course, the other post-employment benefits, which we do every year. We don't like to say those words sometimes, but in our business, especially in public safety, we have to provide, and it's traditional to provide, other post-employment benefits to members of the uniformed services with medical benefits until they at least get onto Medicare, Medicaid age at 65. They retire, and many times, especially firefighters, are suffering from ailments, from fighting fires. Many times, police officers the same. It's a tough job out there, and under statute, they're to be provided with certain benefits, and those are called other post-employment benefits, and we're fully reserved for that. That's described a little bit too in your page 3 of the handout. In addition to some of those things, budget flexibility, we also are constantly looking at improving our tax base through economic development, proper economic development. We've sat in this chambers many, many times where community benefits have been brought up, where affordable housing issues have been brought up, where all host of issues have been brought up, and we try to, as an entire organization, keep those things in mind as the economy is enhanced and the tax base is enhanced in Montclair. So, with that, we'll get into some of the numbers of the operating budget. If there's any questions as we go through some of the details, just throw something at me or not at Marcia, Chris, and we'll try to deal with them as best as we can. The budget this year is going to be $93,120,000. Last year, the budget was $91,553,000. That includes all items and all sources, including your reserve fund collected taxes. What that is that's a reserve that we have that is approximately $3 million that we use for cash flow purposes to ensure that the school and especially the county, or the county and especially the school, depending on how you look at it, receive 100% of their tax dollars. In any town in New Jersey of size, of any size, you receive 98, 99, 96% of your tax levy, depending upon the year. Our tax levy, let's say, is $200 million. So we're collecting 98% of that, which is $4 million less than we should. But we as an entity need to turn over 100% to the school and 100% to the county. The reason for that is that they require that cash flow to pay for their vital services. It's called the reserve for uncollected taxes, or the reserve, as I call it, reserve for unpaid taxes. It's not that we didn't collect it, it's that somebody didn't pay it, but that's a different story. So what we're trying to do with that budget is ensure that we have sufficient cash flow. That budget's included in this budget, and that's about $3.2 million. In addition, we also have Type 1 school district debt, which has been flat for the last several years, and we use to pay off the debt of the Type 1 school district. And that debt is passed by the Board of Education and the Board of School Estimate, and it's part of our budget. This year, it's approximately $7.8 million, and last year was approximately the same. It's almost to the dollar to the same, $7.8 million in both years. In addition, included in our budget is the library tax. This is a statutory item as well. The library tax is a certain percentage or millage of the tax base. Don't want to get involved in a lot of gymnastics, but it's included, and it's about $2.6 million in terms of the tax levy. So those three items added together in round figures are about $13 million, give or take. That $13 million is included in our $93 million budget. So it's important for us to understand how these things are adding up to our basket of spending. We use the spending or the increase of $1.566 million, we use revenues to cover that. This year, we're using two sources principally. One is our increase in pilot revenues. Pilots are payment in lieu of taxes, and the pilot revenue is increasing from approximately $3.1 million, 3.2 to $3.9 million, an increase of $700,000. Go ahead.
I was going through some analysis with previous years, and since 2012, the pilot revenues actually doubled, completely doubled. This year alone, the MC Hotel is bringing $500,000 of pilot revenue plus $200,000 of hotel tax.
No, that's good. And it's important that everyone knows the sources of these funds. In addition to the $730,000 of pilot revenues, we're also increasing our surplus used as revenues by $650,000 as revenue to support the budget. And again, this is within the policy guidelines set out 3 years ago by the governing body, Maja's recommendation, and it's good. And just to go over that policy one more time, just fill in the blanks. Go ahead.
It's a resolution number 17-185. According to that resolution, the township is allowed to utilize only not more than the amount we previously generated in the previous year. That means in 2020 budget, we cannot utilize more than what we generated in 2019. Obviously, we generated way more than, more than 7.9 million that we are utilizing here.
Right.
We are very conservative.
So again, and that is conservative. So again, we're increasing the budget by approximately $1.56 million. And of that $1.56 million, $650,000 is coming from surplus, and $700,000 is coming from the pilot money. That's $1.38 million of 1.566. Just those two categories or buckets are covering the amount of money that's needed to increase all these appropriations across the board to finance the services and to finance those increases that have been cropping up, like the information technology that we spoke of. In terms of the specific budget categories, just to go through those a little bit more, the police department is clearly, and the fire, clearly the number one and number two priorities in the town and in any town of size in New Jersey or almost anywhere else. It's public safety. It's what we're here for, and it's what we're here basically to do. But then it's not a qualifier, but it's a continuum that the other services are just as important from a day-in, day-out perspective, especially things like refuse collection and things like park improvements and things like recreation. You could go on and on with health services. So we have to make sure that those are all balanced. That said, the police department budget, especially on the salary side, is increasing by about 3%. That's the sort of the number one increase in flexor in the budget. In addition, we have a health department increase of about 6% blended overall, and that's due to some of the reasons that Maja footnoted. I'll just let her explain a little bit of that.
Yeah, it's one Actually, health department will explain. One part-time employee is made into full-time because of the increase in demand in the senior services division. That's me. And then a little increases, contractual increases, and animal shelter employees. The step increases are contractual based on that. We have a small budget. It looks like 6%, but it's not a significant amount in the overall scheme of things.
Right. And
Aren't there additional revenues coming in to cover those some as well? From
Yes.
contracts that we have from other
Yes,
communities?
and the fees and permits and all that they're increasing. So they are kind of, and the health department also gets a substantial amount of grant revenue. The leg grant, there's significant amount of grants they bring in, so that covers for that.
I just want to interrupt. What I'd like to do is have the department heads, this presentation, and department heads done by 8 o'clock. So gauge your time accordingly.
Okay,
so does the crane come out? Yeah, that's good.
Yank 'em.
So in the appropriation section, those are the major one. Other than that, we are starting a new initiative this year. We are funding arts initiative to fund for the arts, we believe, to Montclair arts program.
Did you want to, just what we said was that some of the additional dollars, revenue dollars that we got from pilots and so forth, we were going to dedicate to supporting the arts in the community. So I believe it's $150,000 is going to go to organizations in town that support the arts, and we'll probably form a subcommittee or something to deal with that distribution, but I would imagine it would be something like CDBG and how we do it. But it's an important step to make sure that we support arts organizations in our town.
It's good community benefit. So let's just move forward then. Let's go to sheet 11. This is one of Ms. Rao's favorite sheets, and quite frankly, it's one of mine as well. So sheet 11 shows you the 3 pillars or foundations that we've been talking about. The first one is the surplus revenue increase. We're using, it's going to be approaching $8 million in this budget, $7.5 to $7.9 million in this budget from surplus. That's a full $6 million more than in 2010-2011. In addition, the new pilot funds compared to 2010-2011 is $3.2 million more than back then, if you will. And then we talked about the debt service interest avoidance, or the interest savings, if you will, on the reduction of outstanding debt. That's at least $1.7 million. Those 3 foundations add up to $10.9 million. That's 15.5 tax points. If we still had the same surplus, the same outstanding debt, and the same pilots as about 8 or 9 years ago, we would have 15.5 more points added to the municipal tax rate. That's 20% higher. In round figures, people at home would be paying $1,200 to $1,400 more a year in just municipal property taxes. Now, in my book, that's tax rate stability, because not only do you have 2 years of taxes at a 0-point tax rate increase, but you also have a significant softening of the tax block. To economize time, just flipping through to page 12, and it's the last page, we've sort of added this year, and a lot of people worked really hard on this. Mr. Stafford, the Finance Committee, the council as a whole, back in the summer. We had a breakthrough with labor stability. After, as I spoke about in the opening, we had a breakthrough where we had years of lagging contracts. The breakthrough this year where we have a 7-year, very fine booked contract with the lead union, which is our Police Benevolence Association. And they have a 7-year contract. Of course, 1 year and a quarter is almost over. It started in 2019. This gives us labor stability, and the contract runs approximately with the inflation rate for salaries throughout the country. And we're trying to do the same with the other unions. And again, Mr. Stafford and his staff and others in the Finance Committee worked very hard on structuring that. And we thank the council for going along with some of those issues, because labor stability now gives us free and clear some time to collaborate with our employees, to work on various issues, and to move past any adversity. And that long-range stability, the mayor should be given a lot of credit to the Finance Committee for supporting it. It was really a true foundational issue and a seminal issue for the town, and that's one of the foundations that we tried to build on. So with that, I'll just let Mr.
I just want to just add to that, though, I think for all except for 3 unions, maybe there's a little bit more than that, we have long-term agreements, but not just the one. We probably have...
You're correct, right on the money. 3 are in negotiations and are, I hope, and I believe, soon to be perfected. The rest, the other 5, are in long-term agreements.
So it's 5, so 5 of the 8, we have at least 6 years, I think for most of them 7, right?
Well, the fire, the FMBA and the FSOA expired this year. However, we've commenced negotiations well in advance of the expiration of the current documents, so that in the hopes of extending with similar terms.
Okay.
But that was, those 2 were 6-year agreements.
Right, okay.
Mayor, I just want to say, as you said, that you've never seen any other towns that have had this 20% or 30% decrease in debt. The debt, no, I've never seen, all the years I've been teaching public administration, political science, all the towns I study with my students, and all the years I've served here, never seen this type of long-range contract stability with our labor unions. And I'm a labor union leader. I think it's fantastic, and I commend you for working with the manager, the mayor, and the council with this, because I've never seen such stability, and I don't think you've seen it anywhere else in the state, have you?
I've never seen it, no. And you put it all together, and it's quite a story. And everyone sitting up there really deserves all the credit in the world for supporting some of these initiatives, because it's not easy, as everyone knows. And Brian will tell you, he's in the trenches every day. As everyone knows, it's not easy to get through it, but once you get through it, it's really quite remarkable. So,
Thank you.
thank you very much.
Before you leave, I have 2 points. One is an explanation, and the other is a clarification. And maybe Mr. Abzorni will be speaking to this, though, but can you speak to the significance of the pay-as-you-go with our infrastructure work and what that does for the township?
Yeah, in this budget, you can see in the utility budget, all our water, sewer, and parking utility budgets, all these capital projects, like infrastructure projects, are getting done through the operating budget. That means we are not borrowing anything for all these infrastructure projects. That is the pay-as-you-go. We are paying as we are doing it, with no additional debt.
And the other is a clarification regarding pilots, that the pilot amount is not or would not be anything less than what would have been paid in property taxes.
That's the general policy.
That's the general policy.
The benefit to the pilot for a developer, redeveloper, is tax payment certainty. The benefit to the towns is also tax
Guaranteed
payment
money.
certainty. And we try to use the assessor's office to match the pilot to a reasonable assessment. It also avoids, speaking to your point, what I call the tax appeal train with commercial development, where they start to appeal taxes. If you have a pilot, the developer is barred from seeking a tax appeal.
Right.
And that's really important for the council.
Exactly. Thank you, Bob.
I have one question on page 7, on the grants line, where 2019 it was 575, and now it's 108. Would that number grow as the year goes on?
Yes. Like, you must have seen in many council meetings, you get that Chapter 159 resolutions, like, as you get the new grants, we get them to insert in the budget. You are approving to insert them in the budget, so,
So that number would grow as they get
Yeah,
approved?
because it's with different granting agencies grant them at different times,
Yes.
all through the year.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I only have one other question on that same, was going to ask on that topic, but the interlocal services, I just want to ask to clarify, this is the contract, and maybe other contracts, the contract with Glen Ridge to provide the fire services, which we've done for 20 years, which is kind of unique in the state. It's a leading example of interlocal municipal services. But the other, that's not the total contract, so what is the other revenue coming from
Small
interlocal?
contracts for the health department,
In other towns, health.
Nestle, and, the health department go through. We have
So
other
when you add it all up, it
contracts,
comes to
yeah.
that $1 million.
Yeah, but the majority of it is Glen Ridge Fire.
Glen Ridge Fire, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, great job.
Thank you.
Good job. Thank you.
Mayor, while those folks vacate the table, as you know, given the governing body's participation in the process, it's fair to say that thousands of collective hours go into forecasting and developing and striking a budget, notwithstanding the fact that this will be the second consecutive year with a 0% municipal tax increase, and there is simply not much proverbial fat to chew. An enormous amount of work is done starting in the fall by Ms. Rao, by Mr. Beneke, and by Mr. Macaluso, resulting in where we are today. And it would be patently unfair for me not to mention that and to thank them personally before they leave the well, if you will. Of course, as you know, department heads are involved in all budgeting phases as well, and I'd like to thank all of our department heads for their hard work in this process. 5 of our department heads of the municipality's largest budget centers are here tonight to address you, and first will be Fire Chief Herman and his deputy chiefs, Duncan and Wild. Gentlemen.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. With me, as Mr. Stafford said, is Deputy Chief Brian Wild and Deputy Chief Rob Duncan. And we'd just like to give you an overview of the department over the last year and some of our accomplishments and some initiatives that we have going on. Currently, the department is staffed for 89 personnel. We are currently at 82, and we will be hiring 7 new members shortly. We have 1 battalion chief, 3 engine companies, 2 truck companies in service at all times. And in 2019, we responded to 2,199 alarms. Of those, 21 were structure fires. 5 of them were second alarms. 1 of them was a third alarm fire. And that's in addition to the many other incidents that we respond to, such as gas leaks, electrical issues, extrications, and the like. We also conduct hydrant flushing in Glen Ridge. Our line personnel performed 1,091 in-service inspections, 293 public education events. Sorry about that. I thought I had to keep it pressed. We continue our program of educating our high school seniors that are on their way to college to keep them safe as they enter, the realm of being on their own, which we think is very important. We've also upgraded the fleet in 2019 with the addition of 2 new engine companies, which are housed at Station 2 and Station 3. And we've also upgraded our technical rescue capabilities with Paratech struts, and the easy explanation is they're metal cylinders that we use to solidify our ability to enter different situations where there's a collapse or something of that type of incident. Shortly after they were put into service, they were used to remove a tree removal worker that was trapped under a crane. And we've also upgraded our hose and nozzles. We've upgraded our software, our records management system. We also prepared specifications for a new ladder truck, which was passed by resolution recently to add to our fleet. And as we continue to upgrade our fleet, we've made tremendous strides with that. And we also have prepared, which will be presented shortly, a study that was done to upgrade station number 3. It needs some renovation. With that, also, the Fire Prevention Bureau conducted the following 152 consultations, which would be site inspections, sprinkler systems, fire alarm systems, 583 life hazard, elevated hazard inspections, which would also encompass commercial use of hood systems, liquor license, fireworks, mobile food vendors, which I might add that our fire officials started a program to inspect food trucks, which has become a model through the state, and it's the first of its kind. We also put an emphasis towards high hazard vacant properties. We've done 665 smoke detector inspections, 400 permits were issued, and 32 fires were investigated. That's all I have. If anyone has any questions.
My first question is a takeoff on the budget question. The Glen Ridge contract, I'm always concerned about this because it started when I was first mayor years ago, as you know, Chief. Now,
Really?
when does our, years ago, many years ago, but when does it expire? Because it's a 10-year contract, or is it 5? Give me a background.
I don't have I believe it's 2023, but I'll confirm that.
Okay, so we're coming up on another couple of years, we have to start negotiating again.
Correct.
So they pay us, we service them, it's worked out well.
Yes, works extremely well. They're satisfied with our services, and yes, it works.
Just don't want us to lose that, so let's keep working on it. Thank you.
Sorry. Chief, in that very impressive list that you just mentioned, do you routinely, yearly inspect all our schools?
Correct. The fire
You do?
official inspects all
Okay.
the schools.
All our schools?
Correct.
And what about Montclair State University? Do we have any relationship with them, with our department
Well,
to them?
we have a very good relationship with them. In fact, we provide their confined space and technical rescue services, and in turn, they've provided us some training. They've also assisted with, when we were doing some work with our hydrants, they assisted us with that. They also fund the project as far as the seniors being given that the public education piece that I spoke about with the 2 college students from Seton Hall. That is funded through them, and we're very grateful for that. But yes, we do have a great relationship with them. They do have their own fire protection division, but we work closely with them, and they're always there to help us, and same with us to help them.
Thank you.
Mayor?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. Chief, thank you for that presentation. In addition to the equipment upgrades, and you noted new vehicle that we just approved here, would you say the biggest items moving forward are Station 3 upgrades? Is that the biggest maybe difference from what you've been currently working on? Or
Correct.
what is-
That right now would be something that is a priority for us and a much-needed upgrade. We've done our due diligence. We do have a proposal as far as in working with the architect to present in regards to that, but that is one of our big priorities right now. Yes, it certainly is.
Okay, great, thank you.
Just a question, Chief. So you'll be starting specs for the 5th vehicle for 2021?
Correct, Mayor. Our next vehicle would be an engine to replace the engine at headquarters, and our whole fleet would be new within 4 years. And also with that is we have reserve apparatus that, with the addition of these new apparatus, also improve our reserve fleet. So our whole fleet will be really, really upgraded and in the best shape it's ever been.
Thanks, Chief.
Files of rest.
Thank you. Any other questions for these gentlemen? Thank you. Thank you. Keep up the great work.
Next up, Mayor, would be Ms. Portuez from our Health and Human Services Department. Thank you, fellas.
This is what I'm talking about. Yeah. Good evening. We're talking. Good evening. Now we're talking.
Keith is handing out our annual report for 2019 and also the Division of Senior Services.
Thank you. How are you?
5-year progress report, which was recently submitted to the World Health Organization for our livable communities. We've got a lot going on. We had a pretty exciting year. So, as you know, we have several different divisions that fall within our department. What I've done is just taken a couple of bullet points from each division to try and keep it quick so they don't pull me off the stage with a hook. For our Division of Public Health Nursing, as is typical with public health, something's always coming up that's new, and right now it's coronavirus. So our department is monitoring the 2019 novel coronavirus and staying informed about continuously changing guidelines. Right now, we're doing passive monitoring for several people who have returned from mainland China, which means that they call us if they have any change in their temperature or symptoms that could indicate that they've become ill. We don't have any people that were directly exposed to ill people who would be calling to do active monitoring, which would mean we would need daily contact with them. So right now, it's on the down low, and there's really a low risk for folks in New Jersey at this point. Our number of open childhood-led cases doubled in the past year between 2018 and 2019. And I just want to note that our department has received close to $307,000 in grant funding for the childhood lead poisoning prevention program since 2018. Most of that's going towards salary. For the Division of Senior Services Lifelong Montclair, the age-friendly progress report update has been handed out. It's a beautiful report. I'm really proud of Katie for this. It's a 5-year progress report. It touches on all of the 8 domains of livability, and she's done tremendous work over the past 5 years. So when you get a chance, take a look at that. It's one of the most professional things that has come out of our department. One of my favorite programs that Lifelong Montclair did this past year was Self-Portraits, Faces of Aging. And what it was the older residents in a class at Edgemont Park House did self-portraits. And those self-portraits were made into banners and posters, and they were displayed about town and in the center of town on the posts. So that was really nice. And it was to offset stereotypes of aging and highlight older Montclair residents. The senior bus this year averaged 700 rides per month, which is a 459% increase since we began our partnership with Easy Ride. Under the Environmental Health Division, environmental inspections increased by 30% since last year, mostly attributable to the over 60% increase in lead inspections and over 50% increase in sidewalk cafe inspections. Our inspectors conducted 415 retail food inspections, reflecting an increase of 26 new businesses and changes in ownership. As you know, Montclair is known for its food establishments, and people are clamoring to get in, open new businesses. Some unfortunately don't last long, some do. So there's a lot of turnover, and it keeps us really busy. For health education, the number of health education events more than doubled between 2018 and 2019, and there were nearly 4 times as many participants this past year. For our employees, in addition to the health challenges offered through the Joint Insurance Fund, employee programs such as freedom from smoking, exercise at work, and preventing opioid overdose and naloxone training were offered. Montclair Township Animal Shelter had some really exciting things happening this year.
Yeah.
George the Rescue created a garden oasis for dogs at the shelter, and the Greater Good Foundation donated $10,000 during its reveal, which was used to purchase a new commercial washer and dryer, clothes washer. And many of you were there, and I really appreciated the support, and it was exciting, and it was filmed, and we saw it at Egan's, and it was just such a great thing that happened this year. we had a formal agreement made between the shelter and the Friends of the Montclair Township Animal Shelter in 2019. And this provides for programmatic and financial support. And in fact, it was because of FOMTIS that George to the Rescue garnered interest in our project and came over and did that courtyard in the back. Our Office of Sustainability launched an energy aggregation program, which provides up to 40% renewable energy for our electric supply. And after completion of the microgrid feasibility study for New Jersey Board of Public Utilities, the team continues to explore further financing and incentives to design, construct, and host the microgrid in the town center. Gray also submitted another application for Sustainable Jersey, and our town became recertified under Sustainable Jersey. Under Section 8 housing, we assisted 311 Montclair families with housing. And at the end of 2019, Bruce Morgan helped launch a project with the Montclair Inn to enable older residents to age in place thanks to Section 8 vouchers. So they'll have a project-based Section 8 program there. Under vital statistics, dog and cat licensing, there were over 20% more marriage licenses issued in 2019 as compared to 2018, which highlights the desirability of Montclair as a place to get married. This year, we're collecting email addresses for dog and cat owners so that we can hopefully go paperless pending installation of new licensing software for 2020. A lot of you were aware and involved in our Mayor's Wellness Campaign, and I just wanted to note that for our 2018 application, Montclair was designated a healthy town by the New Jersey Healthcare Quality Institute, and that's because of the combined efforts of the Mayor's Wellness Committee. And the committee is a collaboration of all of the township departments and partnership with nonprofit and business partners. And we again applied for 2019 designation, and we're really hopeful that we get that again this year. Thank you, that's what I've got.
Thank you.
Questions?
So, just a quick question. The senior bus, which is very good, I think it's doing well, that's a contract out to
Easy ride.
Easy Ride, right?
Easy Ride.
So we're deciding to keep that going because it's doing much
very
better than when we had our
popular,
own.
I believe we have one more year to renew that contract if the governing body sees fit based on ridership and evaluation, after which we'd have to go back out on the street.
Right, okay, good, thank you.
Just one more thing. Mr. Morgan's initiative,
Yes.
it should be noted that 118 out of the 122 units will be covered by these vouchers to assist these seniors in staying in place.
Yes.
So it's pretty robust.
It is.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Thank you both. Next for us, Mayor, will be Mr. Abzarni, our Director of the Department of Utilities.
Taking care of babies.
Good evening.
Sir?
I guess I gotta make this even faster, huh? About water first. So, Montclair Water supplies New Jersey American from West Orange, Little Falls, part of Cedar Grove. We supply Glen Ridge, and we supply part of Clifton for Passaic Valley Water Commission. Last year out of Grove Street, we pumped 1.9 billion gallons out of Grove Street. We also pumped 380 million gallons to Glen Ridge. And we took 558 million gallons out of our wells due to only one well being online due to the carbon vessels being at right now. Grove Street consists of 4 electric motors, 2 500 horsepower motors that do 9 million gallons a day, 2 250 horsepower motors that do 4.5 million gallons a day. We have 1 auxiliary diesel that can pump up to 16 million gallons a day. The second station is a Watchung Avenue pump station, has 5 electric motors, and can pump up to 16 million gallons a day. We have 2 tanks. One has 1.5 million gallons, the other one has 2.5 million gallons for a completion of 4 million gallons in storage. 3 wells, only 1 is online right now due to PFOAs for the carbon vessels. That's Glenfield well, which pumps 600 gallons a minute or 864,000 gallons a day. Lorraine well, we ordered the vessels with council's approval. They should be installed this summer, and that's going to be set at 325 gallons a minute or 468,000 gallons a day. 1,000 fire hydrants were flushed, We have a SCADA system that actually monitors the water system, has about 400 points of data. Some are every half a second, some are every minute, some are on command, and some are on status change. We also have radio communications with our tanks in case any communications go down. We also have a VPN, which is a virtual private network that we set up through the internet for our stations to get communications and our cameras for security back. Water quality. Water Quality Accountability Act has now added additional functions for the Montclair Water to be able to do. That includes every valve has to have a GIS coordinates. Every hydrant has to have GIS coordinates. Any main infrastructure has to have GIS coordinates. It also includes sampling. We have to do samples every 2 weeks at all our point of entries for pH, orthophosphates, and alkalinity. Most of that is for the lead and copper rule. We also have to check now for PFNA and PFOAs for quarterly sampling. There's a new regulation out on 1,2,3 trichloryl propane, which will be sampled quarterly. We also have to now sample, since waivers will no longer be given for synthetic organic compounds. And I can go through some of the other ones if you wish, real quickly. Bacteriological, trihalomethanes, haloacetic acids, volatile organic compounds, inorganics, lead, copper, organics, radiologicals, pH, orthophosphates, alkalinity, nitrates and nitrites, total organic carbon, turbidity, total dissolved solids, iron, manganese, and a bunch of unregulated, which is called UCMR4, which is called Unregulated Contaminant Monitoring Rule. So the EPA picks out new substances that we have to search for. Some of the new rules are actually in parts per trillion now. We're testing in parts per trillion. So the regulations have gotten quite tighter. When I first started here 2 decades ago, we were at parts per million. We are now at parts per trillion. We also installed a mile of water main. Let's see what else we got. We also have just bid, and we will go into council approval next month for new water main going down Stonebridge Road to Stonebridge Court, and new water mains on Parkside to Valley and down Godfrey to Valley. We also be working on Lackawanna Plaza for pipe relocation. We have future projects, tank rehabilitation, new auxiliary pumping capacity, pump station equipment replacement. Our pump stations were refurbished in 2008. Some of the drives have up to 45,000 hours on them, so they basically need to be replaced before they fail. Working here, they only fail during the summer and I really need them, so we will change them out before they fail. Quick line for sewer. Sewer, the last infrastructure project is now completed. We did 20,777 feet of 8-inch main. We did 2,731 of 10-inch, 2,824 of 15-inch, and 235 of 18-inch sewer lines, with a total of 5 miles of sewer lines that were refurbished during this project. We found partial collapses and repaired those, increasing capacity during storms. We reduced infiltration, that adds capacity since it was lost due to water leaching into the sanitary sewer system. We jet, meaning we jet every sewer line in Montclair approximately every 2 years, every street gets done. We're having problems, and we'll be refurbishing additional manhole bottoms and chimneys, which is basically the stack of the manholes. We are finding them collapsing over time. They were built in the early 30s out of brick, and the mortar's coming out and the bricks are falling in. We are starting to locate manholes for GIS mapping. Due to the EPA, DEP is looking at future, we had a Water Quality Accountability Act, they're having a sewer one coming up also. We also ordered our new 2019 out of Capitol, a new jetter truck for the Township of Montclair to continue our work. The old one is from 2008. Next department I have is parking. So we have less downtime on the pay stations and equipment. We will be looking for additional funds in 2011 for the elevators at Crescent Deck. We were paving. We will continue paving. We did Walnut East, Bellevue, Erie, and Grove were paved and striped. We are working to developing on the Midtown parking planning and the deck. We're meeting with the businesses of the issue of the construction coming up, so make sure everyone's aware, and we have a plan for everything behind there on the Midtown. We are working with the projects to attempt to have communications and sharing for additional sign or possibly an app so people know where to park, what's available, what's not, depending on where you're going, perhaps even going with a Waze type situation or some app like that. So when you put in your Waze, it'll actually give you options of where to park. We're trying to get rid of the hang tags and go to LPR, license plate recognition. So this way we can get rid of the hang tags. We'll be able to drive by and we'll know if they have a permit instead of having those hang tags that people mess up with. We're looking at paving the Heights, the Valley lot, and the Fairfield lot, and we're actually reviewing certain lots for potential pay stations in the future. Okay, that's the 3 departments.
Great job, guys. Any questions from Mr. Abzani? Yes, Council President?
Yes, thank you very much for your presentation. I appreciate it. I want to go back to the water. So when you started out and you were talking about West Orange, Little Falls, Clifton, and Montclair, so are we presently selling water to Glen Ridge? Or because I know at one time we started a conversation, and then I didn't know where we went with that. We were trying to figure out if we were going to sell them our water, and if so, at what rate?
We did not sell them water. What we do is wheel their water for them. Since they're a partner in North Jersey District, we actually just take the water from the aqueduct and bring it to their actual town. So we'd actually have nothing to do with selling them any water. We wheel their water for them.
Okay, and we do that at no charge? We don't charge
No, we
them to
charge
do
them.
that? Okay, so can you explain a little bit? I don't know what that agreement
What does
is.
wheel mean?
All right, wheel. So
No, I got that. I just want to know at what rate or what percent? What are we getting?
Oh, I believe it's about $500 per million gallons. I'll have to go verify that for you because we're up to change that contract right now. So
Do you have an idea like what that equates to, like per year or per, however we do per 6 months?
I would have to look at that, but it
Okay.
would vary because some years we pump 380 and that was a light year. Other years we pump a lot more.
Okay.
And that contract's being looked at right now. All the contracts are being reviewed as we speak.
And there's some relationship, if I recall, with Orange, but that they're using our system or pipes or something. Are we doing anything with Orange? No?
No, Orange
Okay.
was an emergency that they had. So
Okay.
That's why we ran that line across them. That was an emergency situation, which we lend a helping hand to them.
Okay, so that's we
that's
don't
what
have
that
that
was.
anymore, and it doesn't exist anymore.
That is not hooked up right now, no.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
First, Mr. Abzani, I just want to say thank you for the work you do. I think, certainly, once it's under the street, people see it less often, but you've been a fierce advocate for those sewer lines and all those other pieces, so thanks for that.
Not even being a sewer advocate, is it?
First question, that's why I give you full credit on that one. But I did want to ask you, not tonight, but if you can give a comparison when you first started off, specifically the water piece, when you talked about the 1.9 billion, the 558 million gallon, if you could give a comparison to Mr. Stafford to share with us as to this year versus last year, maybe versus one other year, just to get a sense and a gauge of,
I actually have.
put those in perspective.
Not a problem. I actually have it from 1997.
Excellent, appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Gary, if I may, I just want to thank you for thinking 100 years out, because I know we have 90 and 100-year-old stuff, but you're way ahead, so.
Thank you.
Mr. Wood is approaching. He obviously is our Director of Community Services, and he's going to speak next, followed by our Chief of Police, Todd Conforti, and his Deputy Chief, Will Young, and I believe Captain Scapio.
Good evening. You guys know what we do, so I'm going to be quick. I'm going to be maybe too quick, so slow me down, back me up what I need to do. We have a staff of 89, 82 full-time, 7 part-timer building inspectors, 5 temps who primarily work in refuse and recycling, helping out there, 12 work groups. We have a shade tree division, a staff of 3 in-house. We have a part-time arborist, which we pushed up some budget numbers to get him here more often in 2020. We work with a tree removal contractor who removes trees for us in bulk and does the stumps. And we have 2 plantings, a spring and fall tree planting every year. I've got to tell you that the tree guy under the crane that the fire department rescued wasn't one of ours. Okay, so ash removals in 19, we had 312 ash removals.
Wow.
And 349 other removals between staff and the contractor. Plantings were 470. Our target is always 500. We have 250 going on the street next week for bid, out to bid for the spring planting, trying to get ahead of it and get it going without issues. We put about
Just to
900
jump in, while you've got the numbers, so it was 312 ash, 349 other bulk
Yes.
removals, correct?
Yes.
The plantings, the latest, you had 470, and the latest one upcoming is 270.
No, we had 470 for 2019. Our
Mhm.
target is 500. We have 250 that are going to go out for the spring planting of 2020.
Gotcha.
Bring that program forward. So if we stay on track, it'll be another 250 for the fall.
Great.
Hit
Thank
the
you.
500 mark. We pruned about 945 trees. Traffic work group, we have 2 full-time employees. We maintain 14 township traffic signals. County roads are maintained by the county. Everything else is maintained by the township. Placed about 2,000 street signs, traffic signs, parking signs, that sort of thing, on the streets, and painted about 6 miles of traffic markings, curbing here and there, and other markings. Not the long traffic markings you see with the paving projects, just the shorter ones. The storm source staff at 3, we cleaned and inspected 3,000 catch basins in accordance with DEP requirements, rebuilt 125 catch basins in-house. Those are done on overtime rather than use contractors, so it saves the town money, but this is part of a component of our overtime budget with the storm crew. Assisted with playground maintenance, tool plantings, and ball field maintenance. This is the storm sewer group. Streets, staff of 6. We swept 250 miles of township roadways. That means we did over 3 passes through the town on average. We do more in the business districts than we do in the residential areas. They're done at least once per year, most of them twice per year. Filled potholes with 400 tons of asphalt, addressed 9 winter storms in 2019. All the other work groups participated in this as well. Collected 6,000 cubic yards of leaves in 2019. Park staff, we have staff of 6. We have a landscaper who helps out. They maintain 9 larger parks, 14 tennis courts, 5 basketball courts, 18 smaller green areas and pathways, 3 train stations. They also participate in all the winter storm events. They're primarily involved with sidewalks and that sort of thing. Refuse, we have a staff of 23. We collected 11,325 tons of residential waste, 2,400 stops per day, and 1,400 tons of residential bulk waste. This is with the twice per month, per section collection. Recycling, staff of 13, we collected 4,995 tons of commingled paper and cardboard materials. And they also have 2,400 plus or minus stops per day. The central garage staff of 4 maintains a fleet of approximately 200 vehicles and equipment, including large and small snowplows, refuse recycling packers, mason dumps, pickup trucks, loaders, backhoes, bucket trucks, chipper trucks, chippers, mowers, large and small blowers, trimmers, paint machines, pumps, and other miscellaneous equipment. They do all the vehicles for the town with the exception of police and fire. We have an office administration staff. Engineering is out with outside consultant with a guy in-house from the consultant 3 days a week. It's been working well, and up to keep them more. The uniform construction called the building department has a staff of 8 full-time, 6 part-time. They processed 3,400 plus or minus building permits in 2019. They have reduced the turnaround time to an average of 2 weeks when 4 weeks is allowed by state law, but they've cut it down to that. That's on average. There's always pickups here and there. Drifting away from operations a little bit, we paved approximately 8.5 miles of roadway in 2019 and 11.5 miles of curbing. Keep in mind that's up one side, down the other, so it's really half if you're looking linear. Completed the mountainside ball field project, the turf and field, sod outfield, pathways, bleachers, batting cage, fencing, that sort of thing. And we put in the electric service down to the south end triangle, a couple just minor things. We did other DOT and CDBG projects, but that was part of the 8.5 miles of paving. And that's the fast version, quick version.
Steve, would you have handy the total miles since 2012?
I think it was 54 miles.
54 miles.
I could tell you for sure, but it's about 50. Like they said before, about 80%, yeah. It's 82 miles.
63 miles out of 80.
Is that right?
63?
I know that's the last time.
Oh, you don't, that was before I added the 2019.
The whole town's been redone, basically.
Yes, the rate we're going is going to...
Quick questions, recycling, there was a TV show the other night, TV report, that recycling is a problem for towns. The mayor, I think, of Chatham was on, so some of my students asked me, are we not getting revenue from what we recycle, rather we're paying to get rid of it. Is that what's happening? That's what's happening in some towns, and they saw this story on TV and they asked me about
That
it.
is correct. It has gone
What is-
from generating some degree of revenue, never enough to cover its
Right.
expense, but it was some revenue to an expense now. And it's anticipated to be about $133,000 for this year.
So it's
The
starting to...
expense, the expense.
That's not-
I know, that's,
not
the report indicated that, but it sounds like a real reversal of what we used to get
Oh, absolutely.
money for
Well,
recycling. Now, it's because they said it's commingled.
No,
No,
because
not being-
of
it has
the
to do
market.
with the China market.
The market is.
China market.
China refuses to take.
Single stream
We
is
don't-
not the problem?
We don't do single stream. We don't do that. That was a problem, but it's, the market is not.
The market.
We separate.
But it's
the-
costing us now to get rid of...
Yes, it is.
Thank you.
Yes, it is.
Quick question as well.
Yes, sir.
One, I guess, would be, the recycling piece I'd noted, and certainly we all have to look at how we address that together. When you noted the engineering, you said that there are 3 days a week, you'd like to see more. I mean, part of that is the ask process here. Is that an actual thing where you feel you need more time from the engineering consultant?
It's working well with the consultant, because while he's not here, he's still working for us, as, through the consultant. He's just working out very well. He's really fit in, and he's learned this town. He's like a veteran of the town already. He's been here just over a year, and we really struck gold with the guy who's servicing the town.
Okay.
The Neglia has done a very good job for us. They've been very responsive, and while they're not here, they're still working on projects for us. They're doing capital construction projects, the design of them, and he doesn't leave he's here Monday, Tuesday, and Friday. He's not gone Wednesday and Thursday. He's doing work for us back in his office as
great.
necessary.
Well, I know that that's something we have to review at some point, so I wanted to make sure we had the information on that. The arborist and the time, I know that, especially with all the tree removal that we're having to do, how's that working out?
That's working out very well. He's settling in very well. We put in more money this year to bring him up for another day, which would be just behind the scenes, getting stuff done. Still be here, for the public on the one day, but the other, getting stuff done behind the scenes. Because it is, you give us double our tree budget, we still, logistically, you can't do more than 500 trees. We're talking to all kinds of people. The suppliers, the vendors can't provide, much beyond that. Not in our circles. We have one contractor who actually grows them out in Long Island, and no one can touch him. And that's been our sole source for the longest time. He's the only one bidding, and whenever there's any competition, he's so much underbids the other ones. It's all one place. But getting 250 marked out, finding suitable locations, it's a full-time job. Not just getting a quantity of them, getting them sited appropriately.
What does that look like in terms of, I know the Environmental Commission members had some conversations with you about that. Is there a way, as you noted those numbers, 312, 349 in removal, and we're hitting the 500, is there a way to push that up a little bit? I know the challenge was finding supply, but is it something where it could accommodate from 500 to 600, or is that...
It's something we could probably keep slowly trending up, certainly, because it is trending up. We used to do 200 to 300, so we are pushing up with the council's interest. I failed to mention that we've recently been dealing directly with some people from the Environmental Commission. They've come to some of our meetings, and it's much easier, it's much more collegial that way, and we get along and we, work things out, rather than, a stiff formal meeting type thing. It's very working side by side with the sleeves rolled up, and it worked very well. It has worked out well.
Great, well, and I guess the advocacy, I'd love to see that number tick up if possible. Let's get that up, yeah.
Keep going.
Great, thank you, appreciate it.
Yes.
Just one question, Steve. Where are we in terms of Packers? What's our...
We go for Packers, every year we ask for another Packer. This year we... No. They were neglected for a long time. We still have some old Packers.
Right, right.
But our fleet is much better than it has ever been.
Are we getting a delivery of one this year or no?
We have one that's being built. We also have a plow that you guys approved for last year that's being, will be delivered probably within the next few weeks.
Okay, good.
The large plow.
Right,
Large plow.
right.
But the Packer, for no good reason, we're thinking like summertime, sometime. They build the chassis, they don't build the boxes. They wait until everything's ready. They don't want to have inventory sitting around. So that's what's, delaying these things. It takes almost a year to build one, which is crazy.
What's the cost of those, basically?
$225,000.
$250,000 for each one.
Just about, yeah.
Cost of keeping our town clean. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Lastly, Mayor, would be our Chief Conforti, and I believe he's accompanied tonight by Deputy Chief Young and Captain Bueller.
Good evening.
Okay, I know you're short on time, so what I prepared takes about 6 minutes to read, and then we'll go from there and answer questions. I'd first like to thank Mayor Jackson, the council, Acting Township Manager Mr. Stafford, Deputy Manager Mr. Scantlebury, Ms. Rao, Mr. Magaluso for their assistance and efforts throughout this year's budget process in regards to the police department. Last year and going forth in 2020, based upon the concerns and feedback of the community and its stakeholders, the police department has focused on 3 areas, specifically crime suppression, traffic enforcement, and improved community police relationships. The primary goal of any police department is to combat crime. I'm happy to report that in 2019, saw a decrease in Part 1 offenses in the UCR from previous year, an approximately 16% decrease since my appointment to chief in 2016. At the same time, arrests increased from 2018 to 2019, while the department received approximately 100,000 calls for service last year. One of the common concerns expressed by the community is traffic control. In 2019, the department increased its staffing of the Traffic Bureau and frequently deployed details concerning pedestrian and motor vehicle safety, such as pedestrian decoys, radar enforcement, seatbelt enforcement, and DWI checkpoints. Motor vehicle stops increased over 17% from 2018 to 2019. Summonses for moving violations increased nearly 3% from 2018 to 2019 and nearly 36% from 2017. Summonses for speeding increased 11% from 2018 to 2019. At the same time, there were 46 fewer motor vehicle accidents in 2019 than there were in 2018. Increased positive relations between the community and the police has been one of our goals and has continued in 2019. Some of our partnership programs have included Coffee with a Cop, and I do want to mention, a lot of people ask us about that, but the one part that I think is important, we make an effort to go out and meet with our seniors, and we educate them on frauds and scams, so we don't just meet with the businesses. And a lot of times, we get real good feedback from the seniors, and they're probably one of the more enjoyable visits that we could have. We increase visibility to the community through the usage of segways and T3s in the business district, participation in National Night Out, Citizens of Police Academy. And for those who don't know, right now we have the 2020 Academy going on. And what I like most about the Academy is that you get the first-hand look of the operations of the police department. You get a real good overview of the different programs that we have. This year, we're combined with Bloomfield, Glen Ridge, Verona, and East Orange. We're getting all good feedback, and it's something we'll probably continue next year with. We have the Junior Police Academy, our Halloween Trunk or Treat, the Police Explorers, PAL Family Fun Night, Bike and Walk School Day, School Bus Safety Awareness Campaign, Operation Clear Track Rail Awareness. Again, that's another program where officers go out, they issue warnings to motorists who stop on the crossings, or if we see a pedestrian crossing the roadway improperly, we give them warnings, we give information on rail safety. Considering we have so many rail crossings in town, I think it's a great program. It's something we'll continue next year with. We have the Teen Drive-In Safety Event, the Chaplain Program, Special Olympics, and the Take Me Home Registry. But the point I do want to make is, myself and Deputy Chief Young, aside from all these programs, we encourage the officers to engage the public proactively, and not just during times of crisis, and we always say that. And we feel that is so important in building trust and understanding between the community and the police department. It's something we're going to continue with in 2020. Lastly, the department has taken an active role in combating the opioid crisis. Since 2018, the department has deployed Narcan 43 times, including 33 times last year alone. We have raised awareness by having personnel participate in the opioid awareness programs and have conducted outreach details to those who have been identified as needing assistance in battling addiction. In closing, I believe that the department is making positive steps in serving the township of Montclair and will continue to progress this year and beyond. And I would like to thank the acting manager, the council, and the department heads for providing the police department the necessary resources to properly serve and protect Montclair. I also have to thank Deputy Chief Young. He's there with me every day, does a great job. And someone who never gets credit is Captain Scott Bueller, who works tirelessly for me every day. People always ask me who he is. He's a guy who works very hard and never complains and does a great job for this township. So thank you, Scott.
You love, yeah.
Question for the finest. Yes, sir.
Chief, any areas where there's something that you think you need, or areas where you're looking, or?
I mean, this year, we're going to be hiring soon. We just gave not a test, we don't have a test in town, but we went through a physical exam with some of the officers that we're hoping to be officers that are Montclair residents and our dispatchers. It's 4 spots that are open right now. So, I mean, they're funded, so that as long as we get those officer spots, we should be fine.
Okay, thank you.
What's the total currently, Chief? It's 112 officers. 112? Yes.
Also, Chief, all those numbers that you told us about in the beginning, could you possibly send them to Mr. Stafford, and he could send them out to us?
I sent something to Katya today, or yesterday.
Okay.
Just an overview of it. I'm not sure if it exactly was what I just said, but it was very close.
Terrific.
And just saying, I ask this all the time, we also have 51 crossing guards, and we have 15, 16 dispatchers. And I think 10 civilians in the police department. So it's a big department.
Wow. Great.
Chief, I want to commend you for all the work you're doing on the drug issue, the opioid march that I joined you with, the
Right.
fighting of this scourge and young people and others. But you're doing a great job trying to combat, educate, and rescue people from that.
Well, I appreciate that, and I have to say, Sergeant Cunningham does a lot of work with that, and he goes out on his own, he does educate the public on that, and he's done a lot of good. It's not just about arresting and enforcing the law, it's about helping people.
Trying to help people. Thank you.
Good job.
Thank you.
Great job. Thank you. Thank you,
Mayor, in the absence of any further questions, as you know, item C on your agenda this evening would be the resolution introducing our 2020 municipal budget and setting the date for the hearing, the public hearing, to be held in this building, in this room, on March 24th at your regular meeting.
Resolution.
Yes, we haven't gotten there yet. Correct. Correct. What she said.
Okay, is anyone here for the League of Women Voters proclamation? Okay.
Yes. Yep.
We should have done that first, I'm sorry, I apologize.
Can we all?
But of all people, they love to see this, right? in
Let's all
action.
of us members go stand, right? And all of us members will go stand.
Sure.
Come on, we'll all go.
No, or you guys go. You guys go. You're good. All you guys who are, you should go. You should go too. You're running, right? The rest of us are just.
Here, Renee, read this. Read this. Come on, get in here. Take pictures? Somebody take this one. You're going to read this, you and Renee. All right, listen, I know it's a man reading this, but when I moved to Montclair, if I could have your attention, when I moved to Montclair 32 years ago, the first thing I did was...
Just, come on, it's 8:30. Jesus.
It's not an award, Adriana. The first thing I did was join the League of Women Voters and got involved in Montclair, and that's why I'm here doing this tonight with my colleagues who are female members of the council and all the council. It says, celebrating 100th anniversary of the League of Women Voters of Montclair area, whereas the League was founded... Is everybody hearing this? Whereas the League of Women Voters was founded in 1920 as a mighty political experiment by the foremothers in the suffragette movement of the National American Women's Suffrage Association, whereas their goal was to help the 20 million women who were granted the right to vote by the 19th Amendment to understand and carry out their new responsibilities as voters, whereas the success of this effort and the tireless efforts over the last 100 years to strengthen and uphold its mission to empower voters and defend democracy, the League has become a trusted, nonpartisan grassroots organization. And whereas the League of Women Voters was not only founded as a national organization in 1920, but the New Jersey and Montclair area local leagues were also celebrating their centennial years of studying issues, advocating, educating the public, and engaging with the government. And whereas the League has sponsored legislation and fought in the courts to protect and strengthen voting rights and access, for fair and free elections, civil rights, community health, children, and education. Whereas the League has consistently been noted for its nonpartisan election information, including sponsorship of candidate forums, information on state and local ballot issues, as well as its commitment to register, educate, and mobilize voters. Whereas from starting the first recycling program in New Jersey to opening dialogues about mental health, internet era, studying the issues of human trafficking, and helping to establish a national position on issues, the League of Women Voters of the Montclair area has an impressive legacy of effective advocacy. And whereas the League champions government systems that are open, transparent, inclusive, and equitable, and whereas the League believes that active and engaged citizens, irrespective of gender, ethnicity, or political affiliation, are the hallmark of democracy, whereas the League of Women Voters has through the years remained steadfast in its mission to empower voters and work to improve government at all levels, it continues to exemplify the words of founder Carrie Chapman Catt, to the wrong that needs resistance, to the right that needs assistance, to the future in the distance, give ourselves now therefore be it resolved that the Mayor and Township Council of Montclair do hereby honor and congratulate the League of Women Voters of the Montclair area on its 100th anniversary and commend the League of Women Voters of the Montclair area for their continuing significant contributions. Wish them continued success in the future. Signed by the Mayor and Council, tested by our clerk, February 18th, 2020, for the 100th anniversary of the League. Here you go.
Mr. Mayor, council members, Bob. I'm Elizabeth Milner, and this is Doris Shapira. We're board members of the League of Women Voters of the Montclair area, and on behalf of my organization, Doris and I are thrilled to accept this proclamation honoring our 100 years of service to the Montclair area.
As a nonpartisan organization, we never support individual candidates. We do work on issues that are relevant to our mission of informing and educating voters. Our positions are chosen by our members at local, state, and national levels and have remained consistent over the years, no matter how the parties have changed during that time. They're revised frequently and updated as necessary. Our positions cover many areas, such as social justice, women's rights, human rights, education, the environment, and most importantly, voter registration and candidates forums. We believe democracy depends on a well-informed and motivated electorate. Locally, we hold public meetings on topics of local interest. Some of our recent programs have addressed cyberbullying, election security, and the environmental protection. Whatever your interests, there is a place for you in the League of Women Voters.
The League of Women Voters of the United States was instrumental in the formation of the United Nations with the work of League members from around the country. And our League in Montclair was instrumental in the formation of the National League position against human trafficking. Doris here was the League of Women Voters of the United States observer to the United Nations for 20 years. And we're also well known for our candidate forums. For many years, the National League held the presidential candidate forums. Some of the older members might remember that. But we stopped that because the political parties decided it was in their best interest to run the debates by themselves, and the League could not stomach that, so we gave up that position. But locally, we are having a forum here with our partners, Aging in Montclair and Montclair local newspaper, for the local elections that are coming up, and the date and venue will be announced as soon as we have them. So thank you for this acknowledgement of our hard work over this 100 years, and we hope to continue to serve the population of the Montclair area for 100 years to come, and I hope you will consider joining us. On all our fantastic members who came to support us tonight. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Okay, public comment. I'm sorry it took a little bit longer than usual to get there.
Hello? That was long. Okay. So my name's Antonella Tirana. I'm 17 years old, and I live at 11 Talbot Street, and I'm the Montclair High School Skateboard Club president. So first off,
You're
I
here
just
with your
wanna-
younger brother.
Yeah, right here.
Okay.
Tell, right? So first off, I just want to thank all of the township councilors and, of course, Mayor Jackson for all your support in helping us locate a safe space here in town. And I especially want to thank Councilwoman Robin Schlager and Councilwoman Baskerville for all your encouragement and guidance throughout this journey. It's been fun. So at the November 18th council meeting, we were very happy to hear the support of the mayor and all the council members for locating us a safe space here in town. Following that council meeting, we had a subcommittee meeting with Councilors Baskerville and Schlager on November 22nd. The councilors recommended that 2 tennis courts at Rand Park be used for an immediate safe space for skateboarders here. And of course, we loved that idea. So our skate club has grown tremendously, and with the weather improving, we ask if a vote can be made tonight for us to use 2 of the tennis courts starting tomorrow. How can we make this happen?
Dr. Baskerville?
Mr. Mayor, with your permission, I'd like to make a motion to appropriate the 2 tennis courts and the area that we've identified through previous conversations as areas to be used for a skate park. Is there any one of my council members that would second that?
I will second that.
And I'll third it.
And so after quite a bit of conversation and listening and coming out and participating and actually experiencing in some of the skating that you guys have been doing, it was very helpful. And first of all, I'd like to say thank you to all of you all that have taken so much of your time to come out week after week and to show us from different perspectives, to engage in thoughtful dialogue, which I really think is the best example of how we can provide leadership in the township. We did come to an understanding that we'd like to put it before the council for a vote.
Yeah, I'd just like to say in thirding it, I have my little magnet sticker. I don't know who gave it to me. A couple of you guys gave, but this is really good, and I do support what the councilors have worked out, and I would hope that we could vote to get this moving tonight, because I know you've been waiting a while. But you have to be patient. You see what we go through with the budgets? It's an education for you. See what we have to deal with? A lot of big issues, but we think we maybe come to a conclusion here, hopefully, to help you get this going.
Thank you very much.
Oh, I'm sorry, okay. And I would like to continue to work with you to get some elements put into the, for temporary elements or permanent onto the tennis courts, till you get a permanent home.
Perfect, thank you.
I do have a question. Mr. Stafford, do you have just a rough estimate of when that could happen?
I'd like to say yes, but no, I don't, and I'll tell you why. I mean, hearing this tonight, I can have the nets taken down and the poles taken down. However, there's going to be the component of our Garden State Municipal Joint Insurance Fund coming out, having sit-down meetings with the councilors and with the group representatives to opine and approve elements, size of the skate park, signage, risk waivers, other risk management issues, lighting, hours, etc. So if I call them tomorrow and ask them to come and meet with you both and representatives of the group, I have no reason to think that that won't happen promptly, but I can't rightly say. Plus, I don't know what elements we're talking about. So that's a major thing. I can have the nets taken down tomorrow.
Okay.
I can't say the same thing about the poles. But
Flaming hoops?
yeah, the poles might be a little bit more in depth. But the real issue is going to be to get the JIF representatives here to sit down, to hear, and to opine.
Yes.
Because until and unless they approve, we wouldn't be insured.
So we want to expedite that.
Yeah, well, I'll call them tomorrow. And I have no reason to think that they won't act promptly.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. Thank you, Mayor. I think this is a great starting point, and I so move.
Second.
Third.
Anybody, all in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
There you go.
Great. Could we get some T-shirts? Could we get a T-shirt?
First step, first step.
You know it's coming.
Public comment, stand up.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good to see you all tonight. My name is Ahaba Felicidad, President of the Tenants Organization of Montclair Advocacy Group. I just want to thank you. We're waiting for them. I just want to thank you all in advance for your approval and support of our upcoming rent control ordinance. And we'll see you back next month. Have a good night.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi, Tony Martin from the Tenants Organization of Montclair as well. I thank you in advance for your approval as well. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Just lean close. Just
Thanks,
lean
that's
close.
better.
How's that?
Good, thank you.
Okay. I also want to thank you for keeping all of us safe and secure with your efforts as outlined in the budget, except for those of us who aren't safe and secure. We have so many tenants who are on the brink. In past hearings, Mr. Mayor, I've heard you agree that what we have is an epidemic of people who are having to leave town because they can no longer afford rent and because rents are rising so rapidly, precipitously in so many cases. You know, epidemic, that's like coronavirus, right? So what would you guys do if the coronavirus did not require passive monitoring, but required action? You'd get on it right now. So I just want to re-emphasize the need for us to work on that together right now, get it done, and we're here. We will be bringing you an ordinance that we suggest. We want you to work on really hard to create one that will be the perfect solution, and let's do it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Lily Quee, also with the Tenants Organization of Montclair, and I just want to add my thanks as well in advance for your support of our upcoming rent control ordinance. I'm looking forward to seeing you all next month. Thank you.
Thank you.
Adrienne O'Toole, 48 South Willow. I hate to pass up an event being here and not bringing up what I've been concerned about. Many of you never go out the front at night. It's dark. It could use a light. Also, there is a flag there that is up all the time, and I know you don't all know flag protocol, but most of you do. The flag should be lit. So you could do a lighting that does both those things. Now, I won't bring up the public library, which doesn't have any flags, and I was told that when the building was built, it wasn't in the plans, and when they renovated it, it wasn't in the plans. I think a flag could be put up. It's supposed to be all public buildings. Neither building has a flag. Now, the United Way building, or whatever that building's being called now, has a flagpole. I hope that's maintained. And I'll bring this subject up with the Board of Adjustment. I think we might have started thinking about parking in front of these buildings. There's not enough parking in town. We can't keep all the grass sacrosanct. It's got to be turned around. You need an access to the front door from the front or the back, but not through the garden. And we have to keep the garden. What else was I complaining about? Oh, one other thing. We still have an acting town manager, and we don't have a clerk. Why don't we have an acting clerk, or have everybody in their real jobs? And I know there are reasons for all this, but really should be straightened out. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
There is.
Get it?
I'll check after this meeting, but in addition, there's a PSE&G light that does not allow the flag to be enveloped in darkness, which would of course be contrary to the United States Code.
Hello, everybody. Thank you very much for all the work you do for this town. It looks like a humongous job. I'm not trying to put any more pressure on.
Can you state your name, sir?
We know that you are also concerned by what's going on with the rent control in here in this town, or lack of it, especially. I'm here. My name is Alain Fayeux. Yes. You've seen me before here. I survived last month, luckily, to be able to stay in my building. I wish our landlords would be able to give us a break, because we have no break around this building at all. It's very, very noisy. And I'm mentioning this also is that there is a slope, Mr. Timothy Stafford, the slope that leads from Seymour Street to the parking lot there, the South Fullerton parking lot. That's very dangerous. I found out going to the town here, looking at the map, that it belongs to that condo association next door. So it's like a no man's land. It's not claimed by anybody. It's dirty. It's filthy. It's full of rat holes. We already mentioned that one time. But the point is, it's hardly accessible there. And I fell the other day pretty badly. Luckily, I didn't break anything, but it happens constantly. Is there any way we could get some steps built there?
Who did you say owns the?
This is...
It's the condo association next door.
It's the strip of land below our Plymouth parking lot that's owned by 5 Roosevelt. It's not owned by the township.
Okay.
It's owned by 5 Roosevelt. People cut through there from Seymour Street and walk up to our parking lot. We've been in touch with the people at 5 Roosevelt, although I have to say their solution is to put a fence up, not a pathway. So we have to, I hear you.
They don't want to spend. They don't want to spend any money. It looks like.
Well, I just, I don't think it's been resolved, but I'm familiar with the situation.
Yeah, but it's getting to be really critical. Especially when we get all that rain lately. I mean, you could easily find yourself on your back and slipping all the way
Two
down.
different issues there, though, Mr. Vio.
Excuse me?
There are two different issues it seems like you're talking about. Number one would be if the area is unkempt. I can certainly ask code enforcement to analyze, and if there's a trash issue or a debris or a litter issue, they
It's
would.
always dirty.
Okay, so to that point, they would review that and advise the condo association of what it would need to do to comply with the code. On the other hand, the issue of people walking across their private property and possibly falling down, that would be an issue for the condo association, the owner of the property, and only the owner of the property to address. And as Mr. Karasik said, it's quite possible that they might fence around the property so that nobody trespasses on their land. And in an effort to, among other things, eliminate people from walking on their land, slipping, falling, and engaging possibly in litigation. So I think Mr. Karasik's already been in communication with the property owner, and I would ask that he just revisit it, however, with the property owner. However, it may not result in what you want, which is stairs being constructed.
Because we would have to go all the way around the block to get to our car.
So
That's
be
right
it.
there.
If that's the case, I don't want to overpromise and have you walk away.
I understand. I'm just bringing this up to see if there's maybe a solution that we could find, but.
Well, I appreciate what you're saying, because it would be quite a walk if you can't get up to the Plymouth lot there, but we'll speak to the property owner and see if there's a solution that might work
Okay.
for people in your situation, as well as the property owner.
Yes. So, unlike my representatives over here, to change the subject, getting back to the rent control here, I'm kind of out of words for that, and a lot of people are hurting in this town. And we need to be able to find a way to put this in place. I mean, not so long ago, a lady comes into my building and to help an old lady. I don't know how she can pay that rent in there. She's been there for 45 years. She's like 93, 95, 98, whatever, and she can barely move, but I don't know how she can afford that. But the point that I tell the lady, like, are you interested in rent control in your area? I said, it'll never pass in Montclair. We have tried that for 30 years. I said, maybe not this time, we are brave and courageous and beautiful. And we really hope that our council people and the mayor, really take a serious look at that and just help us out. We deserve it. That's the only town all around here for miles that doesn't have a rent control organization. And I'm just wondering if is this a conspiracy? Is this what is it that it takes so long to put something like that together? That's it. Thank you. And thank you for all the work you do.
Thank you. Right.
Hi, good evening. I'm
Good
Evan
evening.
Leonard. I live at 41 North Fullerton. I'm with the Tenants Group. We've been working on looking at...
Pull the mic down a little bit, thanks.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. We've been working every week or two, looking at ordinances throughout the state, pulling out clauses that we think would be appropriate. We're going to come back to you with our thoughts, and we're looking forward to working with you as a team to create an ordinance that works for this town and get it passed. Because the longer we wait, we are losing residents, we're losing good people. Thanks.
So I'd just like to say that great minds think alike, because our subcommittee, along with Mr. Scott and our attorney, Ira Karasik, we've also been looking at ordinances and trying to pull some stuff together, so.
What we have and what you have is the same.
I'm saying, it's great that we're all working, so thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. Good evening. My name is Rhea Tompkins.
And I'm Rosie Harrison. Good evening.
And we're here with Ms. Malloy. She's
Yeah.
been assisting us. We've been here, we spoke with you before. We live at 50 Greenwood Avenue. So just wanted to give you a quick update. First and foremost, that previous manager is no longer there. That's first and foremost, so, okay? We did have, with the help of Ms. Malloy, we had a mediation earlier in the month, which I believe was very positive. We put all of our concerns and complaints on the table. It seems with the new manager, as well as Ms. Jessup, she was here before, that they will address our concerns. One is the safety, which we were speaking with the fire department about the elevators, because as we said before, when the fire alarms go up, the elevators are supposed to stop, come down and stop. Well, it keeps going. And the fire doors are constantly closed when they're supposed to be open. So Ms. Malloy is going to take the reign with that, but she keeps us abreast of what's going on. We do understand things take time. Everything is not going to be taken care of tomorrow. But we're going to give them to March 1st to see exactly what they have accomplished since the meeting that we had earlier in the month. But I just wanted you to know, with your help, with the help of Ms. Malloy, things look like it's going in a positive direction. What we're also going to do in March, we're going to have what's called the Union Garden Cleanup Day. Because we only have 2 maintenance people. So we're going to take it upon ourselves, a few of the residents, we don't know how many will help, but at least 5 to 6 of us will be out there in March 21st.
Yes.
On March 21st, and with the help of management, they said they'll give us all the brooms, gloves, and everything that we'll need. We're going to take it upon ourselves to start cleaning up the debris in the front of the building and the back of the building to make it look more presentable. So, as I said before, we can't put everything on management if the tenants are not doing their part as well. So, we are trying. Okay.
Excellent, yeah, that's
Very good.
wonderful.
What day of the week is that, 21st?
Saturday.
And what time, please?
We're probably going to do it
Between 12, from 12 to 1, or 12 to 2.
Good, thank you.
You'll be there.
Would you just send us a reminder through the clerk?
Good, come.
Yes.
Yes.
Come March.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. As
Good evening.
was mentioned, my name is Deirdre Malloy. I'm the chairperson of the Landlord-Tenant Housing Committee. I would like to recognize the rest of the committee as well because they were very instrumental in the mediation process. I'm also co-chair of the Montclair Housing Commission, and as Councilwoman Baskerville mentioned, Mr. Scott and I have been working with she and Ira to provide information for the ordinance. That's okay. I can't always make the meetings during the daytime, but we're working behind the scenes. And I'm really excited to see the energy around this, and looking forward to supporting everyone, and thank you so much.
Thank you, and I owe you an apology because I didn't mean to leave you out. And
That's okay.
I'm so excited about the work that you've done in such a short period, both with the landlord-tenant, with the wood, as I like to call it, and with the other things that we're doing. So thank you, and please don't take it as though I'm not
at all.
appreciative. You're
Not
doing
at all.
amazing things.
Thank you. It's because of everyone's collaborative efforts, and so just want to help everybody get to the finish line. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms.
Thank
Moore, I
you.
appreciate it.
Good evening. William Scott, co-chair of the Montclair Housing Commission and also chair of the NAACP Housing Committee. I believe, Mayor, you may have had a meeting with Al Pellman, president of the NAACP, and some of the clergy probably within the last week or so as far as the next steps and concern from some of the outgrowths of the conversation that took place back in December.
I think it was actually maybe a couple of weeks or more.
Okay. And, you know, when he came back from that meeting, he gave me some tasks to do. Okay, so what we have done, we are continuing to organize and have a meeting with a lot of the clergy in the Township of Montclair and a lot of the supporters that came to the Universal Rent Control forum that we had last year. We've expanded that to close to about 20 support organizations that have some dealing with concerns about rent control within the Township of Montclair. So this coming Monday, we're going to be having a leadership meeting to discuss that, and we're going to obviously be having the tenants of the tenants organization of Montclair a part of that meeting, and we are absolutely moving forward with the rent ordinance recommendations to the town council. Have not set a specific time to turn that information over, but we've been working on a collaborative effort, a lot of input from different sources, and I provided information to Councilwoman Baskerville to make sure that we have an idea what the components of that ordinance may look like. We're not going to tell Mr. Karazic how to write the ordinance, but we will definitely want to have a lot of input and understanding of how that ordinance is going to be written. But my point is we have continued to be very serious about that, this situation. Obviously, we know that this is an election year. You know, we want to make sure we get a commitment. You folks are in an excellent position to move something forward. We don't want to sidetrack anybody. I think some of the candidates are going to be looking at supporting rent control as well. So, you know, this is something that's not going to go away. So we want to make sure that we're moving in the right direction. We're working from a collaborative standpoint, and, you know, we can make this happen. Okay? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Scott.
Thank you.
Mayor, if I might, on the rent control issue, I just wanted to give out to all the council colleagues here what I just got from my friend, former Mayor James Manning of Neptune, and he is the chair now, he's a former mayor, but he's the chair of the what they call the Rent Leveling Board in Neptune. Now, Neptune is the town that has Ocean Grove in it. That's where my wife and I have rented something for years, and we were fortunate enough to have rent control there in Neptune that has kept rent reasonable. So I just want everybody to have this. James wanted to come tonight, but he couldn't, and he said in the future he'll be here. But as the former mayor of Neptune, he helped pass this ordinance in 2013. It's a wonderful little booklet, Rent Leveling Board. He's the chair, and he says it's worked very well in Neptune Township, where Ocean Grove is included. So I have experience there, but with the ability to keep rent reasonable, and I just would like to have my colleagues have copies of that, so we could consider that too. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Delgaudio.
Frank Delgaudio, Municipal Liaison from Essex County. Tonight I brought materials. The county has got a large grant to promote the 2020 census. So I have a box to deliver of posters and handouts in 3 different languages. It's vital, especially in Montclair, with a lot of the social programs and residences around town, to make sure that everybody is counted. That's the outreach that we're trying to achieve from the county level. It's a big promotion. There are car magnets. You're going to see it all over the place in the next few weeks. So a big push to get the census and that, make sure everybody fills out the census. And I will leave the materials with the clerk, during the meeting, not in the afternoons when I usually drop off and leave them in your office. But I've got numerous, and they could be passed out as you see fit.
Thank you, Mr. Gotti. Also, too, I was contacted by Ann Murden. Ann heads the committee. There's a joint committee between Bloomfield and Montclair that's working very hard to get people to participate on the census. She'll be bringing some posters and so forth to the office as well. But it's really critically important that all of our residents respond to the census, and so that we're counted, and because funding obviously is steered because of the census. The other thing, too, is there are still thousands and thousands of jobs that need to be filled for the census, for those working on the census. And I believe the minimum wage is $21 an hour for working on the census, some as high as $26, $27 an hour. So please reach out on the website for the census if you need, looking for some employment. It's a great opportunity, and the Census Bureau never goes away. I mean, they hire up every 10 years, but it never goes away, so there may be even chances for permanent employment. But certainly for quite a while now, and I think almost now, they're getting to almost a crisis point now for needing individuals to work. So it's Mr. Zachary.
In addition, Mayor, to your point, or further to your point with respect to the Census Bureau website, we've posted on our website links to that information so that folks seeking the temporary part-time employment, because they are desperate, can go on our website and click and make it even easier.
Thank you.
Deirdre Malloy again. I just wanted to report that I am a 2020 Census Field Supervisor over numerators.
Okay.
And I will be starting in March. So whatever I can do to make sure that Montclair area is being counted, I'm going to be working on that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else for public comment? Seeing no one, I will close the public comment period. Madam Deputy Clerk.
Okay.
Mayor, I wish to report that the ordinance has been published and posted, and copies have been made available to the public as required by law. This is a bond ordinance providing for various capital improvements in and by the Township of Montclair in the County of Essex, New Jersey, appropriating $9,073,000, therefore, and authorizing the issuance of $8,623,000 bonds or notes of the township to finance part of the cost thereof.
Thank you. Is there anyone present who wishes to address this ordinance? Seeing no one, I will close the public comment period on this ordinance. Council? Just by normal announcement, this is part of our overall Dept program, and as a result of this, we anticipate at the end of 2020 that as Mr. Beneke and Ms. Rao indicated, or Mr. Macaluso indicated earlier, we expect our debt to be like in the $162 million range at the end of this year, and this funding, this bonding is incorporated into that math. Roll call?
Councilor Baskerville?
Yes.
Councilor Hurlock?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor McMahon?
Yes.
Councilor Russo?
Yes.
Councilor Schlager?
Yes.
Councilor Spiller?
Yes.
Mayor Jackson?
Yes. We have some new business ordinances. Ordinance 020-04 is an ordinance for calendar year 2020 to exceed the municipal budget appropriation limits and establish a cap bank pursuant to New Jersey law. And I so move.
Second?
Roll call?
Councilor Baskerville?
Yes.
Councilor Hurlock?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor McMahon?
Yes.
Councilor Russo?
Yes.
Councilor Schlager?
Yes.
Councilor Spiller?
Yes.
Mayor Jackson?
Yes. C is a resolution, R 2026, approving the 2020 municipal budget. This is for the introduction of the municipal budget on first reading and fixing the time and place for the holding of a public hearing upon the budget pursuant to New Jersey law. And just for the record, the budget will be $93,120,163.27. The tax appropriation for that purpose will be $55,433,295. And the public hearing will be held on March 24th at 7 p.m. here at the municipal building. And I so move.
Second?
Roll call?
Councilor Baskerville?
Yes.
Councilor Hurlock?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor McMahon?
Yes.
Councilor Russo?
Yes.
Councilor Schlager?
Yes.
Councilor Spiller?
Yes.
Mayor Jackson?
Yes. We have items 1 through 9, which have been placed on a consent agenda. Does anyone have a reason to remove any of these items from the consent agenda? Seeing no one, I will move the consent agenda.
Second?
Roll call?
Councilor Baskerville?
Yes.
Councilor Hurlock?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor McMahon?
Yes.
Councilor Russo?
Yes.
Councilor Schlager?
Yes.
Councilor Spiller?
Yes.
Mayor Jackson?
Yes. Item 10 is a resolution awarding bid 20-01 for Valley Road and Church Street improvements. I so move.
Second?
Discussion? Roll call?
Councilor Baskerville?
Yes.
Councilor Hurlock?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor McMahon?
Yes.
Councilor Russo?
Yes.
Councilor Schlager?
Yes.
Councilor Spiller?
Yes.
Mayor Jackson?
Yes. Item 11 is a resolution appointing members to the Civil Rights Commission, and I so move.
Second?
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Councilor Slager?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Whereas invoices against the Township of Montclair in favor of the following persons for the amounts set opposite their respective names have been received, duly audited, and found correct. Therefore, be resolved by the Council of the Township of Montclair in the County of Essex that said invoices be, and they are hereby ordered paid, and that checks be drawn by the Finance Department to the order of such persons for the amounts respectively and thereafter stated on computer printout attached hereto and made a part hereof. This bill list is dated February 18th, 2020 for $8,682,564.04, and I so move.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call?
Councilor Baskerville?
Yes.
Councilor Hurlock?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor McMahon?
Yes.
Councilor Russo?
Yes.
Councilor Schlager?
Yes.
Councilor Spiller?
Yes.
Mayor Jackson?
Yes. Comments? Mr. Karasik?
I have nothing to add.
Mr. Scannellberg?
No comment.
Yes, I
Madam
do.
Clerk?
Mayor and council, I wish to report that the Superintendent of Elections will be in Montclair on March 24th at 7 o'clock p.m. That's our next regular council meeting, to give a demonstration on the new voting machines. I invite all to come out for the demonstration or to watch it on TV 34 at your leisure to become acquainted with the new voting machines. These machines will be in operation at the next municipal, primary, and general elections. The demonstration will be televised and then made available for viewing on our website. For more information, please contact the clerk's office. And one more report, I'd like to wish the mayor a happy birthday.
Yeah, happy birthday, Mayor.
39, right?
No, 29. You missed, gave me, don't make me too old. Council?
I just have a quick question, please, for the clerk. Would you please tell us the time?
It's 7 o'clock.
It'll be during the meeting.
During the meeting.
In the evening.
She's asked for time during the meeting. She's going to be
Fabulous.
bringing the machines with her.
Oh, great, okay, thank you. It'll be perfect.
I understand, I'll make a comment about this because those machines are very complicated. They're new, they may be better.
They are not very
They're not
complicated.
complicated.
They're extremely easy.
Somebody said they're complicated, I hope they're not. But you're going to see them,
You're
we're
gonna
going to
see
see
them.
them right
She's
here,
gonna
we're going to
do
have them right
live
here.
Yeah, but we also had them here twice. We had them here, well, I had them once for the last election, and our the workers who were here, as well as the voters, took surveys, and they said it was incredibly easy, much easier than our current ones.
Good.
And unlike some of our current ones, they actually work. They don't
Yeah.
break down, so it's very easy. You fill in the dots, you put it through the machine, it's done, you vote quickly, you have a paper trail.
That's the key.
It's the purpose. Yeah, it's very, very easy. Very easy.
Good. I just wanted to tell my colleagues that I represented you all at the Trinity Temple Church on Saturday. Was the 50th birthday of Bishop Prescott, and it was great. 90th birthday, I'm sorry, thinking 50. 90th birthday was a wonderful event, and Trinity Temple Church appreciated our resolution and our proclamation. The other thing is the mayor and I both were at, I think it's Vesta, Mayor. We went to the opening of the chocolate place on Valley Road. It's a wonderful new place, and we broke the chocolate. It's a place that's run by some wonderful people from Montclair area, and we've got great chocolate from both Dominican Republic and Belize and all over the world, really. So it's a great new place on Valley Road, I think close to Bellevue Avenue. The only other thing I want to give my council colleagues is copies of the Montclarian for this month. It's this month's Montclarian, which has a nice story on page 4 of the Montclair adjunct faculty, the contract that we won. So I've got these for all of you guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Good local newspaper at the Montclair State University campus.
Any council comments?
I got two notable items on March 14th, Saturday night. The Montclair Ambulance Unit is having their annual St. Patrick's Day party, this time not at the Commonwealth Club, but at the Glen Ridge Country Club. And there, you can go out at mau.org for information, but and there will be posters and everything else, flyers around, so you'll be hearing about it, but that's coming up. And then on March 16th, which is a Monday, the Mercier Father-Son Beefsteak this year is honoring our own Lenny Coleman and Steve Tober. So that should be quite the event. Again, it's the Mercier Beefsteak. There'll be flyers, it's online, call me, whatever. Both should be great events. Sorry about the father-son thing, some of us can't go there, but the MAU's open to everything, everybody.
I'm a member of that group, they should have everybody come.
Well, we just fired you.
Wow.
You're no longer a member.
I've been a member for years.
Rabble rouser.
It's my opinion, that's my opinion. My wife would like to come, she likes beefsteak.
Councilor Hurlock.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just real quick, the 8th Annual First Ward Beautification Day is Saturday, April 11th, from 9 till about noon. Looking forward, we've had an amazing turnout over the last 8 years. I can't believe it's number 8, Mr. Mayor, but looking forward to a good day. Hopefully it'll be nice and sunny. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilors?
I'm good.
All right. Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Have a good night.
And you too.